Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be talking about the new event that started at the weekend, and it does surround 4 war tournaments. Obviously the Blitz war that was on Saturday, and then we've got a CRW, then a Blitz, then a CRW again. In these events you can get extra rewards. They did extend the milestones quite heavily, and that's what we're going to mainly be focusing on. But you can get calipers as you go through the milestones, and then the last final milestone in each of these individual wars, you'll be able to get an item, the blacksmith's hammer, and you'll be able to trade all 4 in for an exclusive avatar. If we jump over to the store, you can see this is the exclusive avatar itself and the required 4 hammers to be able to get your hands on this. You cannot trade your hammers for anything else, as you can see. If you do manage to get some of the hammers, and not all of them, you can't get anything else but the avatar. So unless you get all 4, getting them is meaningless. This is a problem in itself. There is also caliper rewards, which I'm probably going to make a separate video about, because one of these rewards I think is very, very worth going for. But definitely try and get as many of the calipers as you can. Get some of the extra rewards. There's some advanced bags here, ultra bags. This is a bit better rewards when it comes to what you can get in a normal CRW and Blitz, but you are going to have to put a little bit more time in. And that's what we're going to really be looking at when it comes to the milestones, because the milestones have been drastically increased for the Blitz and most likely for the CRWs as well. Here are the milestones that were during the Blitz war, and as you can see, the milestones got boosted by over twice as much. If you were in the Blitzes, you know what it was like. It went from a 100k milestone in a 24-hour period for a Blitz, which is still pretty reasonable, up to 250k for a 24-hour Blitz. This is kind of crazy amounts of tax you've got to do, how much time you have to put in. And when it comes to the CRW that is upcoming, most likely you are going to have to do twice as much of that. They're probably going to do double the milestones, where the top milestone will be 500k over a 2-day period. Now, when I was streaming last week, before Blitz started, I kind of guessed that I thought 50% or less people would be able to hit 250k in just that first weekend, just that first day of the event. I thought that at least 50% of the community would be basically phased out of what would be effectively the most exclusive part of this event, the draw, the fun part, and it would be this avatar. If you didn't know as well, this avatar isn't necessarily just an avatar, because I know people don't necessarily like avatars. You can trade this avatar in later for some war store points in the next war season. That is completely optional. I would say that is probably not a good idea, especially for the amount of time you're going to have to put in to get this avatar. To trade it in for some points just to get 1 copy of a character early from the war store, or just a Paragon mod, doesn't seem like really worthwhile in my opinion. You can't really look at that Paragon mod and say, yeah, I just got 1.5 million points for this, versus looking at an avatar and know that you're going to be one of the very exclusive few who have actually got that avatar. It's up to you, of course, but if I got it, I would never be trading this away. Now, to gauge how many people did hit this milestone, I did do a poll on my channel. And as you can see, these are the poll results. There has been just under 350 votes here. I will try and link this in my top comment. You can go and vote here. The votes will still count. I'm going to pass these votes on to Scopely later on, so they'll see how many people have actually done this. And you can see that 46% of people hit less than 100k. 18% of people hit between 100 and 249k, and only 36% of players on these votes hit 250k or more. This means that 64% of players did not get the required milestone to continue aiming for the top milestone in future war tournaments, and now they are phased out of that part of the event after 1 single day. This is awful in my opinion, and I think this has actually led to a much lower engagement, because 46% of people getting less than 100k is extremely low, and I generally don't see that low when it comes to in CRWs and stuff. But when I went through the war scores of the top 20 factions in my group, It was absolutely crazy the amount of people that just didn't even bother warring. Obviously, it was a holiday weekend. It also started on a weekday as well for a lot of people, where they could have potentially been at work while it started. This is hours of the event going away that you can't put into the tournament. It's crazy, crazy stuff, the requirement that was being asked here. We'll break down that side of things in just a bit, but the overall percentages here are actually better than what they were in the game when I just checked out the top 20 factions. And you yourself can do this as well. You can check the war history by going into your faction tab, go to war leaderboard, clicking region, then clicking swap, then clicking the last war and click view, and it will load up the last war as it was stands. You can see who basically scored the most, so on and so forth. But if you go into a faction, you can see their points. Now, I did this for the top 20 factions. So up to the faction down here, let's have a little look. Up to the faction called Wing. And I obviously did break down how many members of those factions did hit that 250k marker. And the results are surprising. This is the results on the screen. And as you can see, we have got 19 from first, 16 second, 15, and then it just slowly but surely goes down and down and down until when it gets down to the 15th to 20th places, you're only having a handful of people hitting those 250k requirements for that top milestone. So literally there's only one person in 2 factions did actually hit it. What is also quite a worrying number as well is only 4 factions out of these 20 top factions in my group had 30 players in them. This is kind of unheard of, and I do think actions like what is happening in this event is slowly but surely pushing players away from the game. The game does not have that much going for it. War is pretty much it, and if they make war extremely toxic, which is what this is doing in terms of you can't get the fun part of the event, then it could potentially just push people away, and they'll look at other games, and there are loads of other games out there that have much better events. I've been testing other games over the last few months just to see what it's like in other games, and they're way more rewarding, and you don't have to put anywhere near the sort of time in that is required here. I don't think Scopely realizes to hit 250k points, it takes at least 6 hours, and that's if you're hitting extremely good, because you're not just competing with the people you're going up against, you're also competing with your own faction for points and competing to even get in the wars in the first place. Only 8 people can war at a time, and that means you could potentially just have to wait for the next queue if you didn't get in, unless you've got a very organized faction in terms of trying to say you're going to be in these slots in terms of this is when you're going to play, then it is going to be a massive problem for just a lot of the faction hitting the 250k marker. And like I said, after day 1, losing out on so many people is crazy. From the numbers I calculated from the top 20, it's even worse than my poll. 152 people out of 558 got 250k. That's 27.2%. That means that 72.8% will miss out on this event's top exclusive reward after the first day of a 30-day event. That is mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing. But at least it's not a rug pull where you miss out right at the end, which does happen in a lot of events, unfortunately. This is a rug pull just on day 1. But I'm not sure what's worse, really, because now you're going to have people not caring really about participation in the future war tournaments. Having war 4 weekends in a row is hard enough, but now these people who have hit 250k have to hope other people engage enough that they can do it again. And I'm guessing it's not going to be the case, because if 46% of people on my poll aren't even hitting 100k, that means engagement is just so low right now. Scopely really need to address how they look at war, and this has been an ongoing problem for 6 months, because I've been talking about it months ago when we had 200 to 300 win requirements on war weekends. This is even worse. This is asking you for a 200 to 300 win requirement on a Blitz weekend. Then on the CRW, it's going to ask you for a 500 to 600 win requirement, because that's how many wins it takes to get 500k points. There are some people who will hit 500k points, they'll have clear weekends, everything will be fine, but there will be some people who work on a weekend. I don't think that the people who are hitting 800k should be seen as the norm. This is people going above and beyond, having a lot of fun warring. This should not be the thing that is kind of seen as the normality of war. Top milestone should still always be the only thing that should ever have anything exclusive in it. The milestones past it for calipers, I'm personally going to give that a big thumbs up, because if you're going to go beyond the top milestone in these special events, you should get optional rewards, trainers, potentially even weapons and stuff like this. That's actually kind of cool. But something as minor as an avatar, making it so cutthroat, is absolutely crazy, because the psychological impact of that is, why take part if I can't get the exclusive thing? And like I said, people don't just play RTS. They do play other games too, and they'll play the other game and RTS at the same time, and they'll see the other game is being way more generous, way more forgiving, and you're much more willing to put more time in because you feel like you're going to get things back because of that time investment. So this event primarily is a bust, but I think there is still some recovery in terms of the players. If you get your calipers, you can get some actually pretty decent rewards. I do hope to make a video about the potential caliper rewards in the coming week, but I'm really disappointed with how they've laid this out. I'm disappointed with a lot of stuff with regards to war. I can tell not a lot of people who are making these events are actually playing war. I want them to hit 250k in one war weekend, just to see how much time it takes for them to do that. Hours and hours and hours. That's even if you can hit those points with your faction competing to get those points too. They need to make this a little bit more of a friendly, approachable thing when it comes to just engagement. The most important thing should be people engaging in this event, making sure they're actually putting in some time to do some attacks. This is putting a lot of people off, it seems like. And this is just the war tournaments. I'm going to be making another video like this in the coming weeks about the monthly events, which have gone drastically downhill over the last 6 months. Now, if you have any thoughts about this particular event, how you would structure it in terms of the kind of points you think that people should have to get that blacksmith's hammer. I've heard people say the top milestone should be enough, or only just a little bit higher, maybe 125 to 150k. That still requires a lot of hours of input, but in a 24-hour period where like 8 of those is probably sleep, potentially 4 to 5 of those could be work depending on your time zone, and another 4 to 5 could be sorting stuff out for your family and eating, you maybe only have 5 or 6 hours to actually play the game. And that means you have to play the game in that 5 to 6 hours. No option. Like I say, I really hope Scopely do address this and reorganize their kind of thought process and ideas behind how war is, not just from a Scopely's perspective, but also from a player's perspective too. Like I said, any thoughts you have, leave them in the comments down below. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.